Welcome back to the After Letting Go Zoom room for another live session. So let's dive into today's email. So I'm going to share my screen with you. All right, so let's go.
I'll be back in literally 2 minutes.
Okay, no problem. Lane, if you can read that headline quote.
Yeah. Be not the slave of your own past. Plunge into the sublime. Seize, dive deep, and swim far. So you shall come back with new self-respect, with new power, and with an advanced experience that shall explain and overlook the old.
Yeah, so a great quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He talks about the hero's journey, really. These quotes all refer to the hero's journey. Dive deep and swim far into the sublime seas. So he's talking about the sea. The ocean is an analogy for spirit. Dive deep and swim far into the sublime sea of yourself. Go within, in other words. So you shall come back with new self-respect, with new power, and with an advanced experience that shall explain and overlook all. I'm really talking about is the hero's journey. Look at that. Bring that up. He's asking us to dive deep into this journey, to have the courage to plunge in and go through this process of the hero's journey, which we've discussed before. And then he says, you shall come back with new power and an advanced experience that shall explain and overlook the old. And so you return back to society after the hero's journey, and you have this expanded perspective, this advanced experience of yourself, of life, and that's called wisdom. So a quote that again calls us to just go into dive deep into the hero's journey and let go of our doubts, plunge into the sublime seas. Be not the slave of your own past. So you must let go of the past, because the past binds you into conditioning and programming that will stop you from plunging into the sublime seas within you, from diving deep and swimming far in your own experience. The past is this symbolized in this diagram. It's the resistance, the refusal of the call. It's the resistance to the call to adventure. It says, no, you just stay as you are. Keep the status quo. Don't change, don't transform, don't grow. Just cling to what you know. That's the call of the past. The call to adventure is to dive deep and swim far into the sublime seas of yourself. Ultimately, this is a journey of self-exploration. You go within and you find a power and a presence that you didn't know existed before, and you come back with new self-respect, with new power, and with an advanced experience that shall explain and overlook the old. So if you've gone through this journey, you faced the trials and the tribulations, and you've grown through them, and you've died to the separate self, and you now come back from the hero's journey into the world, having had that experience, you have a very, very different perspective. And you can help others who are on the other side of this, who haven't been through that. And you can encourage them and guide them and say, okay, I know what you're going through because I've been through it, but on the other side of this is awakening, is liberation. So keep going, trust the process, because I've been through that process. And I know, not just theoretically, but experientially, that this is possible, that you can overcome the ego. And then you become a helper and a mentor and a guide for others on their journey. So a very profound quote that's calling us to the adventure of awakening to ourselves. That's what he's asking us to do. And to then return with an advanced experience that shall explain and overlook the old. So a transformation of the past, an awakening, a breaking from the past that keeps us in this known normal world. It keeps us from awakening. Okay, so let's look at today's lesson, I think, would be good, because it's all about overcoming the past. So, Lynn, if you can read that, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts.
My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Future thoughts are actually my problem at the moment.
But you see,
Yeah.
is there really a difference?
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, it's the future, but it's based on the past.
Yeah.
It's based on your past experience. Oh, well, in the past, I've struggled. In the past, things haven't worked out. So therefore, I project that into the future and I anticipate more of the same.
Yeah.
So is it really the future you're thinking about, or is it actually the past
Yeah.
preoccupied with?
True.
You're just extending that past now into an imaginary future, because this is how the ego works. No present moment. The present moment's obscured in all of that, because there's just this dense covering of thoughts, past, future, all designed to obscure the pure formless awareness that is available in the present moment. So that's why he says, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. Even if you're thinking about the future, it's based on the past. If you can free yourself from the past, then guaranteed your perception of the future will change. You suddenly create openness. You create openness. You create an awareness that can come in. So, okay, well, the future's empty. It's a blank slate. I'm not imposing all of my past thoughts onto the future and recreating a future that's going to be like the past. I'm not doing that anymore, because I've let go of the past, and now the future becomes a clean slate on which now the spirit can write a new story for me. Not my story, not the old story, the limited story. I can just listen to the guidance, and on that clean slate can come an inspired and inspiring life. But I must free myself from my past thoughts. So if you read paragraph 1, this idea of course,
This idea is, of course, the reason why you see only the past. No one really sees anything. He sees only his thoughts projected outward. The mind's preoccupation with the past is the cause of the misconception about time from which your seeing suffers. Your mind cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is. It therefore cannot understand time and cannot, in fact, understand anything. Yeah.
So what's he saying there?
Well, if we're not living in the moment, we're just believing all the stories our egos made up about the past, about what's going to happen next.
Hmm.
If I sit and worry
The
about pointless
past
things,
future channel. The past then creates the future, which is going to be like the past or worse. The ego says, well, if the past was bad, just wait. Wait. See what happens in the future. It's going to get a whole lot worse. So we cannot grasp the present, which is the only time there is. Right now, it's so obvious. Right now, that's all there is, and that's all there ever has been. Right now, but the past and the future obscure that and cover it over and create an illusion of a reality that is actually not understandable. That reality is false and it's insane. And so we actually understand nothing when we're in that. Therefore cannot understand time and cannot, in fact, understand anything. It's pretty comprehensive. Okay. You can't actually understand anything if you're caught up in your past.
yeah,
And then, of course, you're going to feel lost and confused and abandoned, and you don't know what to do because you don't understand anything. It's a very confusing place to be.
yeah, it is.
And yet,
Has been.
it's simply a preoccupation with past thoughts. It's all thought. Those thoughts are not real. They're not true. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to honor them.
Yeah,
You can let them go. They are just thoughts based on maybe an experience you had. But this teaching is saying that experience was false. Like whatever you thought you experienced in the past, it was just part of a dream. And you see the woman, holding her head in her hands, and it's like, it's all just a self-created nightmare. Just get consumed by your own thoughts.
yeah, yeah, I have been. Completely.
But none of it's true, fortunately.
No. Yeah, no, I know.
You've just
Yeah,
been
I can see it
preoccupied
now.
with
Now
past
I'm
thoughts.
calm.
Yeah. None of it's true.
Yeah,
The one wholly true thought one can hold about the past is that it's not here.
yeah.
Where's the past? Show me the past. Can you show me the past, Lynn? Show me the past now.
I can only tell you thoughts of my past.
Yeah. You can't. It's not possible. Show me the past. Well, it doesn't exist.
No,
It's
right.
just an idea. It's a memory.
Yeah,
It's memories, thoughts, emotions that seem to be real to you, but they've all gone. You just recreate them in the present moment.
yeah,
So we recreate the past in the present, and then we project that into the future. And the ego tells us that this is life. This is how, one should operate and live. But that's just not true. The present moment is all there is. It's all there ever has been. That's the only reality there is. And so if you can just be in the present moment, if you go beyond this story, you look at this timeline, you go beyond the story of your life and all the drama and disasters and pain and suffering, and you come into pure present moment awareness. That story is no longer there, and the future story that this past story wants to create is not there anymore either. So all you have then is the now. And in the now, you are in eternity. You're in pure formless awareness of perfect love right now, you see? So it opens up the channel into this awareness that's been covered over by the past and the future channel of the ego. Well, the ego wants to keep you on the timeline, keep your mind preoccupied with the past and then projecting that into the future. So now you're fearing the future, and you identify with yourself as the character on the timeline with all the stuff that's happened in the past and all the stuff that can happen, fear in the future, and so it keeps you away from this awareness, keeps you rooted in its psychological and emotional attachments, telling you that that's what you are, and it keeps you as far away as possible from this pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is only accessible now.
Yeah.
And when you do spiritual practice, you let go of the past and the future, and you bring your attention into the present moment so that you can access this and experience this awareness now. And so you strengthen that channel. And you start listening more and more to this guidance, which doesn't reference the past or the future. It just says, do this now. There's this amazing, miraculous presence that the Course calls the Holy Spirit. That's this arrow that translates this pure awareness into a form which is very helpful to us in this world. And it will tell you exactly what to do and where to go without reference to your past. Your personal past is irrelevant. And your future ideas and goals and dreams and expectations and fears are also irrelevant. It says, do that now. Go there, do that. That's all. And if you start tapping into it, you get these very clear instructions that then guide you forward on the timeline. So you're still, working in the world. That hasn't gone. But now you're listening to a guidance that is beyond time and space. That's guiding you in a miraculous way, in a very different way. Not bound by your past or your future fears. Just open, accessible, available right now to whatever you're guided to do. That's miracle mindedness. That's what the Course is training us to do. You've seen this before, but it's starting to make more sense now.
Yeah. I was seeing it in a different light. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Because you've been in the darkness so much, can you see how that gives you a perspective? You understand now, maybe more so than you did, what I'm saying. How does the past and the future channel obscure the light of your true awareness and the now?
Yeah.
And you've experienced it. You know how it does it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get lost in the timeline. It's not a nice place to be lost in, is it? It's horrible.
No, dreadful.
But the now and the pure formless awareness of perfect love that is only available now is accessible always. It's eternal. It's always there. You've just got to stop covering it over and obscuring it with all the ego psychological and emotional attachments to the past and then the future. Stop that train of thought. How do you do that? Spiritual practice stops that.
Yeah.
Stops the mind, opens your mind to this channel of the Holy Spirit and says, okay, I'm open to listening, to guidance, show me. And as soon as you invite it, that channel starts being open for communication, and you will get guidance. Because there is a power here that is eternal, that has always been there, that's just waiting for you to listen to it, finally. Ah, finally, she's listening. Okay, great. Channels open, comms on. Okay, let's start communicating, because actually it wants to help you out of your pain and misery and suffering, and wants to help you ultimately to transcend this whole illusion and go back into pure formless awareness of perfect love forever, eternally. That's what it wants. That's its only intention for you. It's going to guide you systematically and very kindly and wisely through the rest of your life, through this dream world, so that more and more you start identifying with it and pure formless awareness of perfect love, and less so with the ego and its insane identity and reality. And that's, then becomes your awakening journey the rest of your life, listening to the guidance continuously.
Yeah.
Getting better and better at listening more and more of the ego, because that's how it works. If the ego is still there, then you're blocking the guidance. So as you let go of the ego, you automatically start listening more and more to the Holy Spirit. Do you see why the letting go is so important?
Yeah.
You've got to let go of the ego's psychological and emotional attachments as they show up, in order to be able to listen to the guidance now. Because those psychological and emotional attachments are designed to overcome and overwhelm. The ego wants to go, no, there is no spirit. This becomes this enormous great block of an arrow, and it's just going to block out the Holy Spirit. That's what it's trying to do. So that you can't get that guidance. Because if you start opening the channel to your true awareness and listening to the Holy Spirit, the ego knows that its days are numbered. Why would you continue to listen to it if you can listen to this other voice that is kind and wise and gentle, and it works? It's giving you guidance that is really very helpful in your life, very beneficial. Why would you then listen to this, insane entity that clearly is confused and confusing, doesn't really have a clue, and actually just wants to make you suffer and ultimately die? I mean, is that a sensible choice by comparison? And anyone, who starts to awaken starts to go, no, there's no point, absolutely no point in listening to the ego anymore. It has no, validity, and it has no guidance. It can't offer me any guidance of any worth anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 2, Elaine, if you can read that.
The one wholly true thought one can hold about the past is that it is not here. To think about it at all is therefore to think about illusions. Very few have realized what is actually entailed in picturing the past or anticipating the future. The mind is actually blank when it does this, because it is not really thinking about anything.
That's quite a statement, isn't it? The
It
mind
is.
is actually. So you're thinking all this stuff, but it seems to be so important and so, dense, and actually your mind's just blank. None of it means anything. It doesn't feel like it's a blank. It feels very busy and full, but actually there's nothing really going on. None of those thoughts are true. So he's just getting us to see it completely differently. Turn it around and go, actually, the picturing the past or anticipating the future, there's nothing really going on. These are just illusions. It's like a cloud. The cloud may seem to be dark and obscure the sun, but actually there's no substance to it. And the cloud in time will just drift away, and then the sun reveals itself again, because it was always there. So the cloud patterns of the ego and its past and future delusions are simply not there. They're false. Your mind is actually not thinking about anything when it does this. And that's quite a good thought to think about. Okay, I'm actually thinking about nothing again. It seems to be something, but it's really nothing. So why am I wasting my time thinking about, absolutely nothing? When actually everything awaits. If I can go into my true awareness, I can experience everything. Love, peace, joy, happiness. It's all there for me right now. I've just got to stop thinking about nothing. And so you've got to realize that what the ego tells you is everything is really nothing. And what the ego says is nothing, no thing, no form is really everything. Complete turnaround. That's a quote from Sai Baba, by the way. That everything becomes nothing and the nothing becomes everything.
Mm.
And that's the reversal of thought that this course is designed to achieve. Okay, number 3. You can read that, Lynn.
The purpose of the exercises for today is to begin to train your mind to recognize when it is not really thinking at all. While thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. Recognizing that your mind has been merely blank, rather than believing that it's filled with real ideas, is the first step to opening the way to vision.
Okay, what's he saying there?
I think it's kind of what I asked you about earlier, about can I block myself? And obviously if I am believing the thoughts in my head, all the negative things, then I am gonna block.
Hmm.
Gonna block the truth.
And recognizing that your mind has been merely blank, rather than believing that it is filled with real ideas, is the first step to opening the way to vision. So try that. Okay, my mind's I've just been in a blank for the last couple of months.
But that doesn't make sense because my brain has not felt blank at all. My brain's felt horribly over busy, hasn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
blank, seeing that as blank.
yeah. But actually, that all that busyness and all that thought is about nothing at all. There's
Yeah,
no
it's about
meaning,
nothing true.
purpose,
Yes. Okay.
there's nothing true. So
Mm.
actually, it's a blank. There's nothing of any substance there. It's just pure illusion. It doesn't feel like it, I know, but he's saying you must recognize, in other words, rethink that your mind has been merely blank rather than believing it's filled with real ideas. So none of those ideas that you thought were real and you gave all that importance to were really real. This is the first step to opening the way to vision. Okay, none of that really meant anything. It's just chaos and confusion, and it has no meaning at all. That's what he's trying to communicate to. Your mind has been merely blank. So the chaos and the confusion of the ego is really actually just nothing. There's nothing really there. It's false. Rather than believing it is filled with real ideas. So you then are denying the reality of these ideas to affect you. And this is the first step in opening the way to vision. You must question the reality of all of the ego's thoughts and ideas. While thoughtless ideas preoccupy your mind, the truth is blocked. So a major exercise in letting go of all of that noise, the noise of the past. And then the future we project from the past, realizing that it is just noise.
Yeah.
And there's actually no reality to it, no meaning, no purpose. So you see, then you don't have to get caught up in these ideas. The ego says, oh, no, but these are real. And you've got to dwell on these and you've got to try and figure it all out. And the Holy Spirit just says, no, it's all a load of nonsense. Don't listen to any of it. None of it's true. Thank God for that. Thank goodness that it's not true. Because that's your freedom. These ideas are not true, so there is a truth beyond them that feels good, that feels happy, peaceful, loving. And you see the power of these lessons. You know, this one lesson, you apply this lesson repeatedly, it's going to undo your ego. It can't sustain against this kind of awareness.
Yeah.
Every day gives you another one to work on, to do the same thing. You say, well, I know if I give you the same lesson every day, you'll get bored and you'll stop. So I just switch it and I change the form of the lesson. I give you different words and a different perspective, but it's the same lesson every day. You might say, well, why do I need 365 lessons in the same thing? It's because you're so blocked and stuck. That's why. That you need to practice it over and over and over again to undo those blocks. If we got the lesson first time round, it'd be like, okay, well, I get it. I'm free. But that's very unlikely to happen. Yeah, well, exactly. If that was the case, it would be like, oh, well, I give you one lesson. Nothing I see means anything, and that's fine. Then you're done. Just apply that lesson and you're done, aren't you?
Yeah.
But he knows that you're not done, that you've got to work through the ego's blocks, and that's a process. And so it's going to take a while. And so he's given us a 1-year course, which you can then repeat every year, as I've been doing 18 years. People have been doing it for 30 or 40 years. It's like, well, just carry on. It's an ongoing, work in progress to manage your mind and manage this insane, crazy voice that you've got in your mind and be able to see it for what it is and let it go. That is the work. So the exercises are designed to help you to confront it moment by moment, day by day, and do that work. That's why he's given us a workbook. Otherwise, it would just be a series of theoretical abstractions that would have little practical value in your life. As Helen even wrote in the text, she said, without the workbook, the course would be too theoretical and abstract. It's the practice of actually doing these exercises that changes your mind in that moment when you do the exercise. And so the miracle of the transformation happens real time when you do the exercise. Sorry, did you have a question, Lynn?
No, sorry, I just coughed.
Okay, so any comments, thoughts, questions on this lesson? It's very simple, very direct. Radically transformational. You don't see anything. Your mind is actually just a blank. So your entire life lived in the ego has been a blank. Not that easy necessarily to accept that.
That's
but I thought it
really
was
hard
real
to accept because it's
meaningful.
felt so huge. So I can't get my head around seeing it as a blank. Pointless.
It's a character in a dream. So you're in a computer game or you're in a movie, whichever, use whichever idea works. And the character is programmed to play out in a certain way, right? By the computer program.
Yeah.
Right? But whatever's happening in the program is false. The entire program is actually false. It's a false reality. It's really nothing. There's no reality to it whatsoever. So whatever happens within the construct of the program is really nothing. All of the programming, the instructions, everything that the character has thought and said and done is just part of an illusory program.
If the word
It
was
has no reality.
pointless, if the word was pointless rather than blank, then I can get that, but blank doesn't go into my brain. But it's not important. I get what it's saying, but it definitely doesn't resonate when I hear that word blank, because it's been so chaotic in my head,
No.
especially
But the
these last couple of
chaos,
months.
the chaos, all of that disorder is really nothing. It's just a blank reality. There's actually nothing there of any meaning, of any purpose, of any substance at all. That's what he's trying to communicate with the word blank.
Yeah, it is pointless. I totally get that. Blank.
And actually those ideas are nothing. There's no substance to them at all. So there's no reality to them. So why are you continuing to think them and feel those emotions when there's no substance to them at all? This is what he's trying to accomplish. But this is a major thought reversal. Recognize your mind has been merely blank rather than believing it's filled with real ideas, the first step to opening the way to vision. It's a major turnaround. Wow. Okay, everything I think I've thought and felt is just blank. My life is not real. That's what it's saying. This character that I've identified with is not real. All my experiences are not real. I've just been in this kind of blank reality, which I've given all this meaning and reality for me, but actually it's nothing. Yes, that's what it's saying. So this recognition is the first step to opening the way to vision. So if there's resistance to it, know why there's resistance, because the ego is going to defend itself. So no, it's not a blank. This stuff has some reality and some meaning. The truth is you're not really thinking at all when you're thinking those thoughts. Those thoughts are not real thoughts. That's what he's trying to teach us. Because the false does not really exist. False thoughts do not really exist. They have no reality. Is that helpful to explain it that way, rather than blank? It has no reality. There's no meaning, there's no purpose. Therefore, there's no substance. There's nothing that is at all real there.
Yeah, I can comprehend those
Okay.
those words. Yeah, I can. I
You
can
could call
understand
that a blank reality. It's an illusion. It seems to be real and it seems to be important and meaningful, but actually it's nothing. It's like a blank false world that actually means nothing, because the meaning is what gives it. True meaning is what gives it any kind of reality. So if it's devoid of meaning, then it's really blank. Just a whole lot of meaningless characters playing out a meaningless dream in a meaningless world for no purpose at all. That is mind-blowing for the ego, but that is entirely liberating for your true self. And so none of it's true. My entire life is just a collection of false ideas, beliefs, illusions that I've believed in. It's a program that I've been running. It's been running through my mind, through this fundamental awareness that I am, that's obscured. It's covered over that awareness. Now I'm coming to an awareness of what that program really is, that that program is really nothing. And the awareness that's covered over is everything. I can let go of the programming. I can unplug myself from the matrix, in other words. I don't have to be governed by the ego's programming. I can allow the fundamental awareness that I am, pure formless awareness of perfect love that transcends any programming, to guide me. And that's what this exercise accomplishes. One, you really understand this. One of these ideas, you understand the whole course. Yeah, it's holographic in nature. Oh, I get it. My mind has just been preoccupied with past thoughts my entire life. So my mind's actually been a blank. I haven't really been thinking about anything. That opens me up to the truth that lies beyond the ego's preoccupation with past thoughts. Okay, so shall we practice it? It's just a short mind training exercise, which I'll guide you through in a meditation. Elaine, happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Close your eyes. Sit comfortably with your back straight. Cup your hands on your lap. Breathing nice, deep, slow inhale breath. Blowing up the stomach like a balloon, clenching your sphincter muscle, locking the energy in, blowing the energy up your spine. Feel this warm wave of energy rising up into your heart center, drawing it up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. And closing your eyes because actually you can't see anything. The visual imagery that you see is just illusion. It's easy to recognize that no matter how vividly you may picture a thought, you're not seeing anything. So now search your mind for a minute or so and just note the thoughts you find there. Breathe in again if you need to. So the breath just invites this higher awareness to come in so you can just observe whatever thoughts and emotions are going on. And so now name each one by the central figure or theme it contains. Say, I seem to be thinking about whatever it is, and then go on to the next. So name each of your thoughts specifically. I seem to be thinking about the name of the person involved or people involved, about the name of an object, about the name of an emotion. Just name all the thoughts that you become aware of. Breathe in again to top yourself up. Just create some awareness with the breath. And then I'm just going to let go and say, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. And exhale. Just blow those thoughts out. Imagine they're like dark clouds just leaving you. Going, gone. Nothingness they really are. You blow them away with the breeze of your breath. To the nothingness they really are. And you rest in a still, calm, peaceful state. Beyond the preoccupation with past, future, which is all illusion, lies the simple truth of who you are. Just purely present, a pure present awareness, pure formless awareness, the perfect love we call it. It's only available now. There is no past or future in an awareness that is eternally present. So just feel this awareness arising. You can breathe in and out through your nose. Breathing in and breathing out. Observe the breath flowing into your nostrils and out of your nostrils. And you watch the breath and just allow this awareness to arise. To just arise in you to be there. So you allow yourself to experience it fully. There's no past, there's no future. Your entire past history, your story, your future goals, dreams, expectations, fears, desires, anything else don't exist in this purely present awareness. There's just this awareness, just pure awareness. And sink into that. Just let this awareness arise more and more, go more deeply into it, merge with it. You become the awareness. The awareness is you and you are the awareness. And there's no difference between the two. You are it and it is you. You are one with it. You merge with it. This is the merging of the Son with the Father, the source with its extension. So just allow that to happen now in your own experience. There's really nowhere else to go but this awareness, and nothing else to do but be in this awareness. So just accept that by being in this awareness, by letting go and surrendering all other ideas, all other goals, intents, the past, the future, everything drops away, and this awareness is all, is everything. It's the only awareness you have. It's the only awareness you really want. And so just rest in this awareness. A few moments, minute or two of deep silence in this awareness. So just coming back gently from this awareness. Hi, John. Just finishing meditation. Timing's good.
Okay.
Coming out of this awareness. It's an awareness of the body, the breath, the senses, and the world. On the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And just pause, scan your mind. Once again, look for any thoughts about anything, about a person, an object, an emotion. Remind yourself that I seem to be thinking about whatever it is, name it. But correct it by saying, but my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. And so you exhale. And just release on the count of 2. Exhale, blow it out. The breeze of your breath. The nothingness that it really is, like a dark cloud or black smoke. Just being on your breath. Allow stomach into the spine. So notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling. Your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, a smell in your nose. Notice what you're hearing, the surrounding environment. Just noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state. A state of mind without illusions, state of mind in which only the truth is true. So anchor that state in, connect with it, set the intention to stay here, the rest of the session and the day. So it is said and so it's done. And now on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around. So noticing everything from this expanded awareness. Just noticing whatever objects are in the room around you or people, but from a state of pure formless awareness. There's no judgment, no limitations, no lacks. Just this pure awareness, and it feels very peaceful and very, very happy. So by noticing and acknowledging it, you invite it in, you welcome it in, and you're saying, I don't want to be preoccupied with past thoughts anymore. I welcome in this present moment awareness as the full and complete substitute for my insane thoughts about the past and the future. And again, just say, so it is said, so it is done. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and of the practice of the lesson. So let's just take a moment to welcome John. How are you, John?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Timing's good as always. We just finished the lesson, so
I like the addition that you made to today's lesson, actually, which is my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts, but I can let them go and be free right now.
yeah,
I thought that was useful, because yesterday's was my mind is
I see only the past.
Yeah, it kept me leaving. It kept leaving me incomplete. Did that one? Whereas that addition of but I can let go. Yeah, it does help actually.
Yeah, well, I'll bear that in mind. Maybe just needs to be made more prominent next year. Yeah. So anything to share, John? Or happy to just carry on into the into
Well, actually, I was reading yesterday's text, actually, which is about fear and conflict, I think, actually.
Hmm.
And I am interested in that paragraph 4, where this correction of fear is your responsibility. When you ask for release from fear, you are implying that it is not. You should ask
Okay. So,
you should ask instead for help in the conditions that have brought the fear about.
hmm.
Kind I'd kind of like to just expand on that really in terms of how to apply it.
Okay.
And maybe even have some build some exercises around it. Because I think it's
Okay. So let's read that. Paragraph 4.
yeah,
Just read paragraph 4 again.
the correction of fear is my responsibility. When I ask for release from fear, I am implying that it is not. So the alternative reads, fear is always a sign of strain, arising whenever what you want, what I want, should it be what I want conflicts with what I do?
Yeah, we're number 4. These conditions. Where are we on?
Yeah, I am looking at paragraph number 2. Oh, hang on. No,
You're at
paragraph
number
number
5.
yeah, number 4. So, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah,
You're
sorry,
number
sorry.
4 or
Yeah.
5?
Just
4.
just number 4. Yeah,
No. Okay.
yeah. So
Just read it from the top.
the correction of fear is my responsibility. When I ask for release from fear, I imply that it is not.
Mm-hmm.
I should ask instead for help in letting go of the conditions that have brought the fear about. These conditions always entail a willingness to be separate. At that level, I can help it. I am much too tolerant of mind wandering and am passively condoning my mind's miscreations. The particular result does not matter, but the fundamental error does. The correction is always the same. Before I choose to do anything, I should ask myself if my choice is in accord with Yeshua's. If I am sure that it is, there will be no fear. So just looking at the number 2, when I ask for release from fear, I am implying that it is not. I am implying that it is not my responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So please help to release me from fear. Well, actually, it's up to you
Yeah.
to make a decision.
Yeah.
Ask instead for help in letting go of the conditions that have brought the fear about. These
Yeah.
conditions always entail a willingness to be separate. Okay, so help me to let go of my willingness to be separate, of my identification with my separate self.
Can we think of an example there? So if I have fear about going on a particular journey,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna do a trip to New York. So I've got
Mm-hmm.
fear. So I should ask, therefore, instead of what are the conditions, where is this fear of traveling coming from?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a fear of death, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Why do you fear traveling? You fear something will go wrong.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I'll crash. Maybe You
Yeah.
know, flight will be late. In the end, it's the fear of the separate self being somehow harmed.
Or
Let's say fear of, let's say this person is scared of flying. Okay, so that's a
yeah,
reasonable example. Why am I scared of flying? Well, I'm scared of death, ultimately. So why are
yeah.
you scared of death? Well, because you are willing to believe the ego's interpretation of the body, that you are a body, you're a separate self,
Yeah,
you
okay.
are a body, your life is the body's life. And so if your body dies, then that's a very fearful thing for the ego. So
Or let
you're
or say if I'm just fear of being around other people in an enclosed space,
yeah,
I'm
whatever the fear is.
claustrophobic.
Yeah.
So that would be a different sort of fear, superficially, perhaps.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's all the same because it's still the willingness to be separate. I'm identifying myself as a body, as a separate self. I'm entertaining these ideas, I'm believing them, and then the fear arises naturally from my willingness to be a separate self and to
How
perceive the situation from the perspective of the separate self.
how am I wanting to be a separate self if I'm being
Claustrophobic.
claustrophobic? Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you're still identifying with the space. Okay, I'm in a space, and so the space and my sense perceptions of the space
yeah.
is causing my separate self to have an adverse reaction. Oh, I don't like this. I feel like these
Okay.
people are threatening me. So
Yeah,
who's feeling like you're being threatened by these people or just being in an enclosed space? I mean, claustrophobia doesn't necessarily have to be people. You could just be in a lift or something, and then you go,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
like the space is threatening me. So my sense perception of my immediate surrounding areas is telling my mind interprets it in a way that is threatening to a separate self concept. It says, oh, this can hurt you.
yeah,
And then I identify with that. Instead of letting it go, I'm much too tolerant of mind wandering and I'm passively condoning my mind's miscreations. And then I go, oh, that's just the way I am. I get claustrophobic. No, you're passively
yeah,
condoning
yeah.
mind's miscreations.
Or if, for example, I'm afraid of being robbed,
Yeah.
that
Whatever the fear
again,
is, it's all the same.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
It's the same problem. I am identifying myself as a separate self who can then be hurt by
yeah,
whatever I feel.
yeah,
If I'm not a body and I'm not a separate self, then that's not possible.
yes. So number three, I should ask, sentence number three, I should
Hmm.
ask instead for help in letting go of the conditions that have brought the fear about. So in that case, if I'm scared of being robbed, I need to let go of the idea that I'm insecure, unsafe.
Yeah,
Am I down the
that
right
I
line?
can lose. It's the idea of loss, scarcity. I can lose my
Yeah,
money, my possessions, which I'm identifying with. Otherwise, why would I fear being robbed? If I had no attachment to them, why would I fear it?
yes, yes,
I had no attachment to my my personal safety and security. I wouldn't have any fear of flying or of claustrophobia. And they're like, well, there's no separate self anymore. So
yeah,
why am
yeah,
I vaguely bothered about the prospect of my body dying if I'm not even a body,
yeah. Okay.
or the
Yeah,
body being in an enclosed environment if I'm not a body? You see, so uh, these what he's saying is I'm tolerant of the mind wandering, and then what we start to say is, oh well, that's just the way I am. I'm claustrophobic. Well, I've always had a fear of flights, a fear of flying. So that's just the way I am. No, it's not the way you are. It's the way your mind believes you are. It's your conditioning.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
tolerate it. Go, okay, well, I might be experiencing this. You don't metaphysically ghost over it. You acknowledge, okay, I'm experiencing the fear. It's arising quite strongly. I'm feeling it, but I don't passively condone and go, oh, well, that's just the way I am. So I'm not going to fly or I'm going to honor the fear.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
look at the thought and feeling with awareness, and I go, no, this is not true, because I'm not a body. I am free. I'm
Yeah,
still as life extends me.
that's useful actually. Yeah, I like how this just kind of breaks this fear down actually.
Yeah. The fundamental error matters. The correction is always the same. Yeah. One problem, one solution. It doesn't matter what the form of the fear is. It's always the same problem.
Yeah.
And so the solution is always the same. And then I can check it and I can say, is my choice in accordance with Yeshua's? Would Jesus, Yeshua, if you prefer, do this? Would he handle it in this way? If I'm sure that it is, there will be no fear.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite practical. I mean, these steps he's giving us are very helpful in these, like those instances of fear you gave. If you applied what we've just outlined, the fear would certainly diminish. It might not disappear straight away, but it would diminish, because that thought of well, I'm not really a body, so why am I identifying with the body? Why am I fearing for the body's welfare and safety if I'm not a
Yeah, well,
body? That immediately
it certainly takes the
discipline.
sting. It certainly takes the sting.
Yeah. It'll diminish it. There might still be some residual, but then you just continue reminding yourself of the truth. Okay, I'm not a body. So if I'm not a body and the body is not who I am, then why am I scared that the body's going to die? Because actually I'm released. The body dying means my mind is free, which is its true state in nature. So I just go back to being who I really am. So why am I fearing that? So, with that logic, the fear of death becomes ridiculous. Why am I fearing going back to my natural state, which is perfectly happy, peaceful, blissful, where, nothing can ever go wrong? The idea of death doesn't mean anything.
That's very useful. Thank you, John.
Yeah, sure. Well, we can, if you like, given we're talking about fear, we can do this as our course. We didn't do it yesterday, so you can have a little read of it if you like. I've got an hour, so we can do this for the rest of the session. How does that sound, Lynn? Elaine, you okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Because fear has come up, so let's address it.
Yeah, fine by me.
Okay, so let's go back to number 1. So this is let's just call this as well. This one's called Fear and Conflict. Section 6 of chapter 2. So Elaine, if you can read number 1. Really not much to translate there, so just do it in the alternative.
Yeah. Being afraid seems to be involuntary, something beyond my own control. Yet Yeshua has said already that only constructive acts should be involuntary. If I so choose, his control can take over everything that does not matter, while his guidance can direct everything that does. Fear cannot be controlled by Yeshua, but it can be self-controlled. Fear prevents Yeshua from giving me his control. The presence of fear shows that I have raised body thoughts to the level of the mind. This removes them from Yeshua's control and makes me feel personally responsible for them. This is an obvious confusion of levels.
So what's he saying in this one?
Well, it's being afraid is, we think, is involuntary. It just is part of us. and it's beyond our control. But we can choose the take over. So we can choose this control and take over everything that does not matter. And then this is when the guidance can come in and direct everything that does matter.
When you understand what he means by I've raised body thoughts to the level of the mind.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Bodily thoughts. Well, when you're feeling stuff, it's obviously all just interwoven with the mind. The thoughts that's coming from you, and then it'll, you know,
So when I'm thinking about the body and the body's protection and welfare and safety and comfort and pleasure and pain and whatever else, I'm raising body thoughts to the level of the mind. I'm thinking about the body, but in the mind. And so I'm getting confused. Because actually the body is not my reality. And so I'm getting level confused. I'm confusing the realities. I'm making the body seemingly real and raising it to the level of mind and then giving the body predominance in my mind. And so now the body starts to usurp my mind. And my mind says, well, I'm a body. And I identify with the body level, which is the material world of illusion, rather than the truth of my mind, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love. And that's an obvious confusion of levels when I do that. And that's the source of fear. What he's saying here is that look at the source of the fear. It always comes down to the identification with the body that you have done. You've made that identification, and you're continuing to do so. As long as the fear persists, you're continuing to identify yourself as a body. The only way out of that is to let go of those thoughts and realize that those thoughts are not real, so they don't belong in your mind, because your mind is simply pure awareness. And there is no body in that awareness.
I think that's a good point, actually, at number 6.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Presence of
also
fear shows body thoughts to the level of the mind. Yeah.
I was also struck by number 2, actually. Yet Yeshua has said already that only constructive acts should be involuntary. I couldn't work that one out to start with. But I took it to mean by constructive acts, it means, well, I think what it means by involuntary is that it should come from spirit. And constructive in the sense of that only that Yeshua has said already that only constructive acts should be involuntary. So I'm just reading that as being spontaneous acts that come from spirit are such constructive acts.
Yeah. Involuntary means not my will, but thy will be done. So
Yeah.
I'm acting under guidance.
Yeah.
But you know, the ego and the fear is under my control. Because I'm saying that the ego is saying, well, it's involuntary. I just, I'm afraid because I'm afraid. And there's nothing I can do about it. That's just how I am. You'll notice that many people have that defense. Well, why are you scared? Well, that's just how I am. I've always been that way. Something beyond my own control. You say, no, that's not the case. It is within your control. The only thing that's not within your control is these, constructive acts that you guide it to do, the inspiration that comes that says, do this or do that. That's involuntary because it's coming from your spirit, not your ego.
Well, a lot of people would also
choose.
A lot of people will also say, well, such and such happened, you'd be frightened, wouldn't you, in that situation?
Yeah, they might. But then you'd only be frightened if you identified with the ego as they're doing.
Yeah.
Take Yeshua, so this is what he says. ask for the guidance as to what Yeshua would think. Ask for his interpretation of, is this in accordance with what he would think? Would Jesus, Yeshua, be scared by this? No, he wouldn't be. So then why am I? So the correct answer to someone who says that, yes, I would be scared if I shared your thought system. If I believed what you believe, then yes, I would be, but I don't, because I'm not a body. I don't identify myself as a body. So why would I be scared if I'm not a body? And they might look at you like, okay, you've seriously lost the plot now. And that's very confusing and strange to them and weird, because they've obviously identified themselves as a body. Otherwise, they wouldn't be fearful. And that, that idea that they're not a body is obviously a direct challenge to their ego. And if they're very much entrenched in their fearful ways, then that's probably not going to be welcomed, because the fear will go, no, that's just not true. The fear is true. But it always involves a body identification, raising body thoughts to the level of the mind, is how he puts it. This removes them from Yeshua's control, makes me feel personally responsible for them. So then I think I am responsible, and the little I self is strengthened. And that entrenches it. But if I'm willing to accept his guidance, then this can be undone. I don't have to feel personally responsible for them. I just have to let them go, be willing to let them go, and listen to the guidance that will give me another perception. And then I don't have to be level confused anymore. Alan, just based on our discussion, can you see how this applicable this is to you? It's a confusion of levels. And when you level confused, then you feel horribly confused, and there's no clear direction. Because you've got these two thought systems going on, and you actually can't see the wood for the trees. So how can you take a clear direction?
Yeah, that's what I've been feeling. Yeah, I can see it totally. Yeah.
So the way out of it is to let go of the body identification. Stop raising body thoughts to the level of the mind. When that happens, you go, no, I'm not a body. I'm still free. I'm still as perfect love extends me. So that thought is not true. It's not real. It's just a false thought. I can let it go. And then you're countering the tendency of the ego to raise body thoughts to the level of the mind. And that starts to turn the tide. But you've been, as he said in number 4, passively condoning your mind wandering. You're much too tolerant of mind wandering, and I'm passively condoning my mind's miscreations. When you fail to do anything, not to say you won't be tempted by the ego, but when you fail to do anything about it and to make the correction, then you're condoning it, aren't you? And then you're allowing that to perpetuate and continue.
Yeah.
So the spiritual practice of letting go of these things is the counter to it. It's like you're not condoning it anymore. You're saying, no, it's going to stop. Whenever it happens, I'm going to stop it by letting it go.
Yeah. That's what I've been doing since we talked about it earlier, when the thoughts have popped into my head.
Yeah.
It's maintaining that. I understand.
Yeah. And that's your work. That's your spiritual practice. It's to be vigilant. The thoughts come. Of course, they're going to come.
Yeah.
It's your pattern. They're going to come. But then how you respond to them is critical. Do you allow them and condone them, go, I'll just go into the state of increased fear, or am I going, no, as soon as I'm aware of it, no, that is not true. I'm letting this go. I'm going to do a practice. I'm going to use the course lesson for the day to help me let that go.
Yeah.
Then you're not condoning it anymore. But if you condone it and you allow the ego to run amok in your mind, then don't be surprised when it gets chaotic and dark and confusing, because it is a dark, chaotic, confusing thought system.
It's like
but you
building
don't
up your own
allow
story into bigger and bigger, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's the
it just gets
Kundalini.
overwhelmingly big, and
Yeah.
you can't. It's trying to completely usurp your mind and say this is the only perception, this is the only reality. Big, bad, scary ego. This is who you are. Don't forget it. And it's complete enslavement. It wants to enslave you into its thought system.
Yeah.
A hijack attempt on your mind. And you have to counter it with this kind of spiritual awareness and practice of letting go. Otherwise, it'll just run amok and there's no counter to it. Well, you just go more and more into it. And that's when your life does start to fall apart. If you listen to it and there's no counter to it. John's got a friend who's been depressed for what, 20 years, John, 30 years, something like that. And he didn't apply these teachings or anything to counter it. And so then he just ends up being permanently depressed and non-functional. And
yeah, it is about 15, 20 years, yeah.
20 years. But if he'd learned some of this theory and the practices, he could have countered that, and he wouldn't have to have been depressed for 20 years. Because it's a choice. But it gets harder, now to get him out of that would be very hard because it's so deeply entrenched. So it's like catching it when it starts and going, okay, no, the buck stops here. You've caught this early. I'm going no further with this madness. I'm going to stop it. I'm not going to condone my mind's miscreations anymore. I will let them go as and when I become aware of them. And I cultivate that awareness by doing spiritual practices like meditation and breathing, because that cultivates my awareness. So I'm aware enough to catch them. And then I've got, this practice of letting go to help me let it go.
Yeah.
That's actually quite simple, isn't it? It's not rocket science. It's quite simple. It's doable. You can practice it. You can do this. It's just, will you have the awareness and the discipline to do that?
And stop getting lost. Yeah.
Don't allow yourself to get lost. Don't condone those thoughts. When those thoughts come in, the right part of your mind's going to go, no, the buck stops here. Absolutely no way. We're not entertaining that.
Not true.
Going further. It's not true. So I'm letting this go.
Yeah.
I'm not going to entertain this and allow the thought to develop into an emotion and then further thoughts, and then it becomes a mood and then a state. And if the state continues, then that starts to become your default state. So just stop it at the first thought.
Yeah.
And that's the awareness, the vigilance that this course is asking you for. So it's saying you must be vigilant for the ego. Whenever it comes in, you can apply this letting go methodology to let it go.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, number 2, if you can read that. Yeshua does not foster level confusion.
I've got my lap, so I've just got to move the computer. Yeshua does not. Sorry, could you make that a bit bigger, please, John? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Zoom in. Let's make it. Is that big enough?
Yes, that's good. Thanks. So Yeshua does not foster level confusion, but I must choose to correct it. I cannot excuse insane behavior on my part by saying I could not help it. Why should I condone insane thinking? There is confusion here that I would do well to look at clearly. I may believe I'm responsible for what I do, but not for what I think. The truth is that I am responsible for what I think, because it's only at this level that I can exercise choice. What I do comes from what I think. I cannot separate myself from the truth by giving autonomy to behavior. This is controlled by Yeshua automatically as soon as I place what I think under his guidance. Whenever I am afraid, it is a sure sign that I have allowed my mind to miscreate and have not allowed myself to guide it.
This needs a bit of change. So allowed me being Yeshua. Allowed.
Yeah.
Will it be more helpful instead of Yeshua to call it your true self? What do you think?
It's hard to say, really. They both kind of work for me.
John, Elaine, what's your thoughts on that?
I like your truth.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I think I prefer your true self, actually.
Elaine?
Yeah, true self's more for me as well.
Yeah, I'll change it then. Okay, so what's he saying in this one?
That we're in control of that we create our thoughts. We're in control of. We create our thoughts.
I'm responsible for what I think. So he's
Yeah.
pointing us. We look at look at this integral model diagram. What might be useful. He's pointing us into this domain, the interior domain, subjective, internal, thoughts, emotions. And he's saying it's at this level that you take the responsibility, because everything comes from your thoughts, emotions, your perceptions, and then that gets projected or extended out into the world. And that then starts to create your behavior, your body, your behavior, your experience in this world. And it influences the collective as well. You know, those thoughts go into the collective and they contribute to the illusion or to the truth. So saying, forget trying to control things on the level of form, on the exterior. Go in and control them at their cause, at the source of reality, which is in thought. And then the external will mirror that, will reflect that. So I think probably what's been happening with you is you've been trying to solve it on the level of form. And you try and find a way through on the level of form. Well, I could change things on the level of form and body and behavior. And actually, that's not the cause. That's just the effect. So he's saying here, go into the cause. Identify the cause and give it over to your true self. As soon as I place what I think under its guidance. When I'm afraid is a sure sign that I've allowed my mind to miscreate and have not allowed my true self to guide it. Does that make sense and resonate?
Yeah, it does.
What I do comes from what I think, right? So this is completely the inverse of the ego. The ego says magic will work, change things on the level of form, change your behavior, change your body, use a magic solution, and that's going to work. But of course, those solutions never work because the real cause is in your mind. Your behavior comes from what you think. So what you think and feel is primary. That's where you should address your time and attention to changing that. Seek not to change the world, he says, but seek to change your mind about the world. And then that will extend into the transformation in the world in a miraculous way. You don't have to orchestrate that and go, well, I've got to do this and this. Just change your mind and then be inspired. Then you follow the guidance, and the guidance may cause you to say and do things that then in behavior that starts to change the external. But it's all inspired rather than and guided rather than motivated by the ego's attempt to maintain its identity by using magic.
I can see that's the flow that I've blocked. Exactly that.
Yeah.
By
So you need to
focusing
start doing it
on
inside
this.
out, not outside in, inside out.
Yeah.
Fix the inside, change your thoughts and your emotions, and then that flows into the external, because this is primary reality and this is illusory reality. It's in our world, we still have to deal with it. Yes, the level of form, body, and behavior, we're still going to be aware of it, but it's an effect and not a cause.
Yeah.
And that's a massive distinction. If you make this into cause, then you see that it's all upside down and backwards.
Yeah. Blaming anything that's happening to me on the outside. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
It's not the cause, it's effect. So, but you can't deal with it at the symptom level. You have to deal with it at the causative level, which is in your mind. And that then will start to change the effects. So as you go up, whenever you let go, you see these contour lines. Whenever you let go, you're letting go of a lower energy state and you bumping yourself up a level or two into a higher state. And at that state, it's like a contour line when you're walking. You'll be familiar with this because you've walked a lot, haven't you, in nature?
Yeah.
You follow the contour line, it's at a different level. You get a different perspective from that line, don't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is follow the line and you'll stay at that level. So it's like now the internal shift then is mirrored in the external. It's like a higher vibrational energy that then gets expressed in a change of behavior and circumstances. That happens automatically when you bump yourself up to that level, provided you stay at that level. Automatically, the guidance follows and it extends out into the material world. And then that's what it means to be in flow and guided. It's just happening to you and through you and for you, for your highest good and your benefit, but without you trying to control it.
Yeah.
And try and fix it on the level of form, which you can never do because it's a symptom. This is effect and symptom, not cause. So how can you really make any fundamental change on that level? The ego continuously tries, but it never works because it's effect and not cause. So do you see how, philosophically, this idea of cause and effect and where true causation then gets very practically expressed in, okay, well, how do I solve my problems then? It's pretty fundamental to the way you're going to approach everything.
Yeah.
Which is why you've got to stay connected to the truth and say, let me keep reminding myself that managing my thoughts and my emotions is my only job. That's what I've got to do.
If it just feels like I should be doing more. That's the problem I've been having. And that's why I've got overwhelmed, because I felt like, well, I'm obviously not doing enough because it's all going more to hell.
But doing more of the same in a state of fear and anxiety is not going to help you. It's just going to make the problem worse.
Yeah, no, I can totally see it now. It's my perspective's changed today, so I can see that. Thanks. Yeah.
So it's going into this and just saying, that my answer lies in this internal quadrant, and let me do the work there. So put your time and energy into that rather than trying to focus on this. And you will find that by this miraculous process, that starts to work out. And that's trusting the miracle. That's trusting that if you change your mind, you change the energy, then it is going to have a change in the external, because the external is effect and not cause. And you've got to trust that philosophy and this teaching so that you can apply it. Now, the ego says, no, that's not the case. Reality lies outside of you. So go and try and fix it in the external. But it's philosophically wrong. That's why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That's why the scientific materialist paradigm, which you find in the medical sense intolerable, don't you? It's like I just can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Because it's wrong, it's incorrect, it's making effect the effect the cause.
Yes.
Well, that's philosophically, wrong. And of course, then any system based on something that is philosophically wrong is going to be upside down from the start. So how can you expect it to really work as a healing approach when it is false and upside down? It just doesn't.
Yeah.
So then apply that in your own life and say, okay, this, ego idea, it's just false and upside down, and I've got to correct it at the level of the problem, which is in my own mind, in thought and emotion. So then number 3, he carries on this point. Elaine, if you can read that. It is pointless to believe.
It is pointless to believe that controlling the outcome of a misthought can result in healing. When I am fearful, I have chosen wrongly. That is why I feel responsible for it. I must change my mind, not my behavior. And this is a matter of willingness. I do not need guidance except at the mind level. Correction belongs only at the level where change is possible. Change does not mean anything at the symptom level where it cannot work. It's just saying to change our mind and not our behavior. And it is just a case of a willingness, and then the guidance will correct. But this is at the mind level where the change is possible.
Go to the integral model. This change at the symptom level doesn't mean anything, because it's just a symptom. It's an effect, not a cause. Go to what's causative, which is in the mind, and change your mind, because that's primary reality, and the external world is illusion. So it's a secondary reality. It's a core. It's an effect or a consequence of the primary cause in your mind. So you can only correct at the level where change is possible, on the mind level. And then allow doesn't mean that doesn't extend into the exterior. Yes, it does. If it's a genuine correction, you will see that extending into the level of form. Your body, your behavior can transform quite dramatically, as we've seen with some extraordinary healing miracles, like Anita Mojani, just like all of her body riddled with cancer, and then that just clears up in 5 weeks, gone, because she'd healed profoundly on the level of mind. She changed her mind profoundly. Her self-concept had dropped largely away. And then, the external effect was that, the healing happened in a way that the external magic, the chemotherapy and whatever other treatments they'd given her couldn't hope to do that, because they were addressing the symptom and not the cause. Interesting, the oncologist goes on and goes, oh no, actually it was the chemotherapy that did it, because he's in denial of the causative realm of mind, of that actually she had a profound near-death experience that transformed her mind, and that is what healed her. And it had nothing to do with the magic of the ego, because that threatens his entire thought system and his own ego. So then they have to defend against that. Clearly like a ridiculous proposition, but then, the ego is ridiculous. So what else can you expect in the face of the truth? That it's going to try pathetically, in that case, to try and justify its lie, even though it's ridiculous. She's, checked out. She's dying. Our doctor said, she's gone. Say your goodbyes, because her organs are shutting down. It's way beyond anything chemotherapy can address. Ridiculous to think that suddenly the chemo, that she probably stopped having days before, suddenly that would kick in. It's crazy. But then, what else can the ego do? because there's no other explanation for her healing than that she went into the level of causation of the mind and she corrected it there. And then that, had this miraculous effect in the body. Okay, so happy with number 3?
Yes.
Go on to 4. I think it's John's turn. If you can read that, John, in the alternative.
Well, we did 4 earlier. Oh, hang on.
We did part of it, so read it again.
The correction of fear is my responsibility. When I ask for release from fear, I am implying that it is not. I should ask instead for help in letting go of the conditions that have brought the fear about. These conditions always entail a willingness to be separate. All that level I can help. At that level I can help it. I am much too tolerant of mind wandering and am passively condoning my mind's miscreations. The particular result does not matter. The fundamental error does. The correction is always the same. Before I choose to do anything, I should ask myself if my choice is in accordance with Yeshua's. If I am sure that it is, there will be no fear.
Okay, any other thoughts on that? We did discuss it.
Yeah, I think we discussed it well, actually. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a lovely paragraph, actually. I do like the whole idea of breaking down. It's having it's when fear suddenly grips you, isn't it? I mean, in a kind of a stressful situation where you don't have time to reflect.
Yeah.
Then that's going to be difficult that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and that's why we do the spiritual practice to prepare ourselves, so we're in our right mind when suddenly the ego strikes, and you're like, well, you've built up a lot of tolerance, a lot of resistance to it through the spiritual practice, a lot of ability to say, okay, I can just zoom out. I don't have to go into this. So this is key. I'm much too tolerant of mind wandering, and I'm passively condoning my mind's miscreations.
Yeah.
That's what we all do. So the way out of that is practice, spiritual practice, learning to control your mind, then means that you're not passively condoning your mind's miscreations. You're dealing with them as they arise. Question?
It just makes me think, when I was on holiday last year, actually, we were going through the first station in Paris, the Gare du Nord, Gare de Lyon, and I suddenly realized somebody pinched my wallet, and we'd only just arrived in France. Bloody pain up the ass. Cash gone, credit cards gone, all my cards gone, and here we are sitting on the train. I think somebody's just suddenly lifted. I had it zipped up, but they'd got through, and there'd been a slight jostling at the Gare de Lyon, and they'd got my wallet out. And in that moment, you just get huge this tsunami of fear comes over, and anger and frustration and complete kind of, what the hell do I do now? Yeah, it's been able to handle that sort of moment.
Yeah. And the more you've practiced, the more easily you'll handle that.
Yeah.
If you're in the habit of practicing mindfulness and looking at your thoughts and letting them go, and you're meditating, you'll have a much greater tolerance for that kind of situation, and be able to handle it much more calmly than if you're just used to, reacting to little things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this is the necessity here. He's saying here, this is you need to practice. You need to do the mind training, because you're much too tolerant of the mind wandering, and you're passively condoning your mind's miscreations by doing that. So practice, 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 which is why he's given us the course, and particularly the workbook lessons, so you can practice them regularly, consistently through the day. If you do that day after day, you build up, this capacity to handle the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare put them in that famous passage from Hamlet. You build up that capacity to handle whatever life throws at you. And so you don't have to fear. Okay, well, whatever happens, I can handle it. It's okay. It's not to say those things won't happen, but I'm able to handle them from the perspective now of my true self rather than the ego. Okay, so let's move on then. Okay, with number 4. Any other comments, thoughts, or questions on that?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So number 5, I think it's Lynn to read.
Fear is always a sign of strain, arising whenever what I want conflicts with what I do. This situation arises in 2 ways. Firstly, I can choose to do conflicting things, either simultaneously or successively. This produces conflicted behavior, which is intolerable to me because the part of my mind that wants to do something else is outraged. Secondly, I can behave as I think I should, but without entirely wanting to do so. This produces consistent behavior, but entails great strain. In both cases, my mind and behavior are out of accord, resulting in a situation in which I am doing what I do, which I do not wholly want to do. This arouses a sense of coercion that usually produces rage and projection. It produces rage, produces rage and projection is likely to follow. I feel like this is all about me and I'm not quite getting it. Whenever I feel fear, it is because I've not made up my mind. My mind is therefore split and my behavior inevitably becomes erratic. Correcting at the behavioral level can shift the error from the first to the second type, but will not obliterate my fear.
Okay, so what's he saying there? Do you unpack that? They're saying there's two types of error. Right? What is a sign of strain? Rising whenever what I want conflicts with what I do. And so there's this internal conflict. My actions are not in alignment with my intentions. So I can choose to do conflicting things, either simultaneously or successively. We've all done that. Produces conflicted behavior, which is actually intolerable because the part of the mind that wants to do something else is outraged. It's like, well, I don't actually want to do that. I want to do something else. So it creates a lot of strain internally. And secondly, I can behave as I think I should, but without entirely wanting to do so. So I haven't corrected my mind. I just go, okay, well, this is a requirement. Often,
this is what I should be doing.
This is what I should be doing. So this is how religions work. Typical religion, it's like, this is what you should be doing. You've got these commandments, these rules. You should be doing it this way, but I'm not completely convinced. My mind, my ego is still at large. And so I follow, the rules, but it entails great strain. So, you look at anyone who's in a fundamentalist religion, and you'll see great strain. They very rigid, very because it's all under control and I'll do what I think I should do, but actually underneath that, I haven't really resolved my anger and my rage and my fear.
No, there's no comfort in it.
So it's hugely strained, and at any point that could explode. Because it's that is still very much there, which is why they're prone to violence. Fundamentalists are always prone to violence. You noticed that?
Yeah, because it's built up to a massive level, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's all of this internal conflict, and they've tried to control it on the behavioral level without transforming their mind. And also essentially, if that gets tested, they can that can flip, and they can just go into extreme violence, which is why fundamentalists are often violent. I'm not saying they all are, but there's a lot of strain there. It's not a nice, I've really let go and I'm flowing, and it's very rigid and controlled. Whereas this is genuine transformation, saying go into your mind and clean it out on the fundamental level. So there's no longer these errors. You're not doing conflicting things, because your speech and your actions are in alignment with your underlying intentions, your true intentions, because you've cleaned out any of the garbage that's sabotaging those. And then you're not trying to control it behaviorally. It's just coming from within. This was the difference. I know you love the Chosen.
Yeah.
Difference between Yeshua and the Sadducees and the Pharisees.
Mm.
You can see a lot of control. They were trying to control things behaviorally, entails great strain.
Yeah.
And so he talks to the likes of Nicodemus and the other. There's one other who came and he saw one of his miracles. You could see he was troubled, and he said, "Let's go up and pray." Because there's a lot of strain in that thought system, because they haven't corrected at the fundamental level like he has. Once you correct it at the fundamental level and you surrendered to God, there's no strain. You're in the flow. It just happens. And they're going, what have you got that we're missing? We know we're missing something. We feel it in our hearts. So then they go to him and go, what would teach us, if they're open? Or if the ego's in strong control, they fear that.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly that, isn't it? It's the old. Yeah, the ones that old style crazy rules, like not wearing two different fabrics together. That one.
Just insane.
Yeah.
And you think that's going to somehow work? You're going to find peace and happiness.
Like it's going to heal your heart.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but that's the ego.
Yeah.
So my mind is therefore split, and my behavior inevitably becomes erratic if there are either of these errors. Correcting at the behavioral level can shift the error from the first to the second type, but it will not obliterate my fear. And so you see demonstrated in the Chosen very well that all of those guys are in fear.
Yes. Yeah.
And they know it on a level, and they actually want the healing. So they go to Yeshua to say, well, heal me. I don't really have the answer. I've got so caught up in this thought system of trying to control behaviorally and not listening to my heart. And you represent, someone who's awakened to love and, has let all that go. And so you can show me the way out of my suffering, my self-created suffering. And Yeshua can do the same for you. He's not here physically, but that doesn't matter, because it's the teaching that's important.
Yeah.
So don't make either kind of error. Just be willing to address it at the causative level, which is your own self-concept. You see, it's your own self-identification with the body and the story of Lynn. That's the problem. That's where the fear comes from.
Yeah, I know.
Address it at that level and let it go, and then neither of these errors need to happen. Okay, happy to move on to number 6.
Just let you know, I've got to go now because I've got to take the dogs out, but if you're not on later, like when I come back, I'll come on tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll probably be another half an hour maximum.
Okay, all right. Thank you all.
Okay, Alan, thanks for joining.
Thanks, Jono. Bye-bye.
All right, join
Bye,
us
bye, Lynn. Bye.
tomorrow. I think we'll do
Bye,
Lynn.
Bye, Joe. Bye, Joe.
does an afternoon session work for everyone?
Yeah, afternoons.
Does the afternoon work?
Yeah,
Okay, we'll do tomorrow afternoon then.
yeah.
Same time, 1 o'clock. All right, so let's move on to number 6. It is possible to reach a state. You can read that, Elaine.
It is possible to reach a state in which I bring my mind under my guidance without conscious effort, but this implies a willingness that I have not developed as yet. The remembrance of perfect love cannot ask more than I'm willing to do. The strength to do comes from my undivided decision. There is no strain in acting in alignment with pure formless awareness of perfect love, as soon as I recognize that it is also my own awareness. The lesson here is quite simple, but I am particularly likely to overlook it. Therefore, Yeshua will repeat it and I should listen. Only my mind can produce fear. It does so whenever it is conflicted in what it wants, producing an inevitable strain because wanting and doing are discordant. I can correct this only by accepting a unified goal.
Okay, what's he saying there?
To reach this state of perfect love, well, pure formless awareness of perfect love, I need to bring my mind under the true self's guidance, but without conscious effort. But of course, this implies willingness, which we haven't developed yet.
So there's no real strain if I recognize that this is my own awareness.
Yeah.
The original was God's will. There's no strain in doing God's will as soon as you recognize that it's also your own. But I've translated that as saying there's no strain in acting in alignment with pure formless awareness of perfect love as soon as I recognize that it is also my own awareness. Maybe that's a bit easier to understand than God's will, because a lot of people go, well, what is God's will for my life? I have no idea. It's an awareness. It's an awareness that can then get translated into thoughts, emotions, words, and actions that you cultivate. And that awareness then guides you through your life. It's giving us the answer. It's saying, the fear comes because my mind is conflicted in what it wants, producing this inevitable strain because wanting and doing are discordant. I can correct this only by accepting a unified goal. That goal is to listen to pure formless awareness of perfect love, to be in this awareness, to listen to its voice and guidance no matter what. That's the goal. As he says, the lesson is quite simple, but I'm particularly likely to overlook it. And therefore he repeats it over and over. It's the same lesson over and over because we do overlook it. Okay, so then he goes into the corrective steps, the first corrective step in undoing the error. So yeah, John, you wanted some practical steps, so this is what he's giving us here.
Yeah, it's good. The first
Can you read
corrective,
number 7?
hang on, am I doing 5 on or 7 on?
7, yeah. First corrective step.
The first corrective step in undoing the error is to know that the conflict is an expression of fear. I should remind myself that I must somehow have chosen not to love, or the fear could not have arisen. Then the whole process of correction becomes nothing more than a series of pragmatic steps in the larger process of accepting the awakening as a remedy. These steps may be summarized in this way. 5. I should know first that this is fear. I need to recognize that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. So I remind myself that fear comes out of lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. I need to go back to how Christ would view this. Perfect love is at one. Yeah. So if we can see through the eyes of spirit, then we can connect with our one-ment.
Yeah. So just a restoration. It's an awareness that this is just a lack of this perfect love that is the at-one-ment. Perfect love is at-one-ment. So when I can experience that perfect love again, then there's a healing, the fear is gone, and I have atoned. I'm at one again with my source. Very simple, but to do it in practice, with all the different stuff the ego throws at you, that's the trick. That's the art of letting go. You've got to master. Okay. Any thoughts, comments, or questions on number 7?
No, I think it's a good one.
Okay, number 8, Elaine. Elaine, are you there?
Yeah, I'm talking to myself. Yeshua has emphasized that corrections or expressions of awakening are always a sign of respect from the worthy to the worthy. The recognition of this worth is re-established by the awakening. Therefore, it is obvious that when I am afraid, I have placed myself in a position where I need at-one-ment. I have done something loveless, have chosen without love. This is precisely the situation for which at-one-ment was offered. The need for the remedy inspired its establishment. As long as I recognize only the need for the remedy, I will remain fearful. However, as soon as I accept the remedy, I have abolished the fear. This is how true healing occurs.
Okay, so what's he saying in this one?
Number one, that's corrections or expressions of awakening are always a sign of respect from the worthy to the worthy. Right, the worthy being the true self to the other true self. Is that what it means?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm worthy when I identify with my true self.
Yeah.
The recognition of this worth is reestablished by the awakening. It's obvious that when I'm afraid, I place myself in a position where I need at-one-ment.
Mm-hmm. So we've done, once we're in this fear, we've done something loveless.
Yeah.
Or should we say we've chosen without love?
Yeah, that's the separation. Separation was loveless. We chose it without love. That's why the at-one-ment was in the instant of separation, the remedy was given. Oh, well, just remember the love that you've denied. So the need for the remedy inspired its establishment. As long as I recognize only the need for the remedy, I'll remain fearful. However, as soon as I accept the remedy, I've abolished the fear. This is how true healing occurs. So I accept, that perfect love is still there. I've just denied it, but it's still there. And in fact, I can't ever really deny it. And then as soon as I'm aware of this perfect love, that's the healing. Again, very simple, isn't it? This isn't rocket science. It's very simple. It's been covered over, it's been denied, it's been obscured, but it's still there. So let go of whatever the blocks to the awareness of it are, and you will heal and you will become aware of it again. This is how true healing occurs. Okay, happy to move to number 9.
Yeah.
John?
Everyone experiences fear, yet it would take very little right thinking to realize why fear occurs. Few appreciate the real power of the mind, and no one remains fully aware of it all the time. However, if I hope to spare myself from fear, there are some things I must realize, and realize fully. My mind is very powerful and never loses its creative force. It never sleeps. Every instant it is creating. It is hard to recognize that thought and belief combine into a power surge that can literally move mountains. It appears at first glance that to believe such power about myself is arrogant, but that is not the real reason I do not believe it. I prefer to believe that my thoughts cannot exert real influence because I am actually afraid of them. This may allay awareness of the guilt, but at the cost of perceiving my mind as impotent. If I believe that what I think is ineffectual, I may cease to be afraid of it, but I am hardly likely to respect it. There are no ineffective thoughts. All thinking produces form at some level. Okay, pretty a lot in that paragraph. So everyone experiences fear, yeah. Yet it would take very little right thing to realize why fear occurs. You appreciate the real power of the mind. So he's saying everyone experiences fear, but yet if we could really get that the mind is our real motor for getting over fear. So our mind is active continuously. It is creating all the time. And even we don't give credit to our mind because we can move mountains if we combine thought and belief.
And he says it can literally move mountains. Wow. So he's telling us actually just take this literally. It can.
Yeah.
That's hard for us to believe in our separated state. And like, what? I can move mountains? Like, really? The earth moving? Like, really? But it has been done. The mind can move objects. The mind can do enormous things, and that's been demonstrated by masters and gurus and people like this through the ages. So then he says, well, our defense against this is that, well, I don't have this kind of power. Don't be ridiculous. And so I deny the power of my mind. This may allay awareness of the guilt, but at the cost of perceiving my mind as impotent. So then I believe my mind is actually not powerful when it is. If I believe that what I think is ineffectual, I may cease to be afraid of it, but I'm hardly likely to respect it. There are no ineffective thoughts. All thinking produces form at some level. Original was there are no idle wishes. All thinking produces form at some level. So we have to, what he's saying is, instead of diminishing the power of our mind as an approach to allaying our fear, we need to fully acknowledge the power of our mind.
Yeah.
And then take responsibility for using that power wisely. So yeah, my mind is very powerful. My mind creates my reality all the time. It never stops. So I need to be much more vigilant about the way I use my mind. Much less tolerant of mind wandering, much more in alignment with the spirit, which means I must practice. Spiritual practice will do that for me. Rather than trying to deny the power of my thoughts, accept that I can move mountains, and that if that is consciously directed, my mind consciously directed can do incredible, miraculous things for me and for my awakening and for the awakening of everyone, as has been demonstrated by masters like Yeshua and the Buddha. You know, look at what they did in their lives by learning to control their mind. They did, in fact, change the world. So if they can do it, why not me? It's a great responsibility. You know, with great power comes great responsibility as well. That's saying. So I need to learn to manage this correctly and use this power that I have wisely in the service of spirit, you know, not my will, but thy will be done. Because that keeps it in alignment with the power source and immune to the influences of the ego. Okay, so any other thoughts on that?
No, I think it's a great passage, actually.
Yeah, a very powerful section. I think I hadn't actually translated it, so I did it the other night in the middle of the night, and I was like, well, actually, I could just give you the original, you know, link, but something inspired me to do it, and here we are, actually reading it. So it's good stuff. Powerful expose, really, of fear.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then it's just a summary. So if we can read that, just to wrap up the session.
Being afraid feels beyond my control, yet I understand that only constructive acts should come naturally without effort. Yeshua's control can oversee the trivial, while his guidance can steer the significant, provided I choose this. However, fear often eludes my direct control and indicates I've elevated mere bodily concerns to the level of the mind, causing me to feel confused about what should be under my control and making me feel overly responsible for these thoughts.
Okay, summary of that in a sentence or two.
It's saying about our fear eludes our direct control. It means we've elevated the bodily concerns to the level of the mind, which causes confusion. So we
That's
don't know
level
which.
confusion. So
Yeah.
saying, you know, let's not get level confused. So my true self does not encourage the confusion between levels of thought and action. But I must choose to correct this misalignment myself. It's clear to me that I'm responsible for my thoughts because they precede and dictate my actions. Clearly, you only act when you think. So thought precedes action, always. But I'm afraid it's a sign that I've let my mind wander and create misalignments without allowing my guidance to lead me. Okay. John, do you want to read the next one? Trying to control the outcomes of misguided thoughts.
Trying to control the outcomes of misguided thoughts as a way to heal is futile. My responsibility lies in correcting fear through understanding the role of my thoughts in creating this state. Asking for help in understanding and letting go of the conditions leading to fear is more constructive than seeking escape from the fear itself. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it. Fear signals a conflict between my desires and actions, a split in my mind that will cause erratic behavior. Correcting this at the behavior level won't remove fear, only aligning my intent with my actions will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Well, it's emphasizing the fact that if we try and correct behavior, and if we try and correct behavior, we try and address fear through behavior, then that will never work. Whereas if we correct it at the mind level, then it will certainly address it. And you can kind of see that. You can kind of see that it like you could see that in a in some sort of a film, couldn't you? Where an aggressor comes along and attacks somebody, and then somebody just kind of responds and fails but then someone who's committed and resolved within themselves, kung fu and all that stuff. The attacker just senses immediately that they're not going to get away with it.
Exactly. So I'm not sure if this is true, but I was told this story. It's a guy who's a martial arts master of sorts, I think karate or something. He was on holiday in the east somewhere, Thailand, and he's couple of guys, four guys was the story, coming to cost him and his wife. And they're like, right, give us your valuables and stuff. And so, from his martial art training, he just says to the guys, okay, guys, I'm a black belt karate or whatever. He says, we can do this if you want, but I can tell you, you are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Very calmly, clearly, directly, no fear, just very matter-of-factly. And the guys are like, whoa. You know what I mean? This is another energy. And they apparently left. They were like, okay, because he's fearless. He's like, okay, I'm prepared to take you guys on, and I'm just warning you're going to get hurt because I'm a martial arts expert. There are four of you, but I will do some damage to you. And they left him alone because he was in his power. And that's in fact what martial arts is all about, like not actually having to fight, just being in your power and centered so that you don't have to fight. That's the true martial arts master, never has to fight.
Interestingly, Carl Jung tells a similar story about when he was younger. He was attacked by 4 or 5 lads, and he could see it, and Carl Jung could see it coming. and he thought, what must I do in this situation?
Yeah.
And he calmly thought to himself, well, I must deal with the worst looking one.
Yeah.
So he actually tackled the ringleader head on, and they scattered.
Yeah, he just went for him. He went, okay, because they're cowards. These guys are cowards. So they don't actually want to face someone who's, really strong and in their power. They prey on victims. Oh, fear. when there's fear, they go, okay, well, that's easy. But if someone's not fearful, they'll just, depart. So that's a good lesson to like say, okay, I can stay in my power, and even on the level of form, if this kind of thing happens, I'm still okay. I'll be okay if I listen to the guidance. I'm fearless. As he was, calmness came over him, and Carl Jung chose to act in a fearless way, as did this martial arts guy that I mentioned. And I've taken on a judge, actually, and the judge left the court. I was fearless. I was in my power, and he just left the court. It was bizarre. It's like, okay, well, that was easy. So I'd never expected that. So it just shows you when you're in your power what can happen. All right. So I learned that reaching a state. Next one, Elaine, if you can read that, and then just the key message, and then we're done.
I've learned that reaching a state where my mind listens to my inner guidance effortlessly initially requires my willingness. Only my mind can produce fear stemming from conflict between my desires. Recognizing fear as a sign of this conflict and choosing a unified goal is the way to correct it. Acknowledging fear as a result of a lack of love, I understand that the only remedy is perfect love, which is the essence of at-one-ment. Accepting this allows for true healing, emphasizing the power of my mind and the necessity to respect and harness its creative force, acknowledging that every thought has the potential to produce in form in some way. Produce forms.
I read that.
So every single thought that we have can produce form. I don't know what that means in some way.
So it can manifest in some way, whether that's a word, it's an action. Because thought is powerful, and it has this creative ability. The whole world that we see is a result of our thoughts. It's a projection of thought. So he's really saying we need to be much more vigilant, of our thoughts, because they have this power.
Yeah, they can come from nowhere.
The power of my mind.
Yeah, so habitual, it can come from just pop up when you least expect. So that's then when it's saying this, just watch that sneaky thought coming in.
Yeah. And the necessity, and acknowledging the necessity to respect and harness its creative power. Because every thought has the potential to produce form in some way. So rather than depreciating the power of our minds, he's saying accept fully that your minds are all enormously powerful. Your minds have created an entire world, an illusion. So you need to really respect the power of your mind and start to use it much more wisely, which is what the mind training is all about, helping you to do. Okay, and then just the key message. I recognize that fear arises from my confusion.
I recognize that fear arises from my confusion between bodily concerns and mental control. By guiding my thoughts towards love and acknowledging my mind's creative power, I understand that healing and peace come from aligning with perfect love, emphasizing the importance of responsibility for my thoughts and actions.
Okay.
That's nice. It's good. It's incredibly compact, that.
What, the key message?
Yeah.
Well, it's yeah, just a summary of. I mean, it's best you can summarize like all of this in
4 lines.
4 lines, but the idea is to give you a kind of takeaway. It's like, okay, what is the overall key summary? Understand that healing and peace come aligning with perfect love and the importance of taking responsibility, taking full responsibility for my thoughts and actions. Confusion between bodily concerns and mental control, between a confusion between
Is it mental discipline?
bodily, true. I think that summarizes it quite well. Fear arises from a confusion between my bodily and true identities.
Okay.
It doesn't go into the complexity of the different levels of fear, but it's, I think that's a key takeaway. It's like, okay, well, by guiding my thoughts towards love and acknowledging my mind's creative power, I understand that healing and peace come from aligning with perfect love and the importance of taking responsibility for my thoughts and actions. So maybe by allowing my true self to guide my thoughts towards love and acknowledging my mind's creative power, I will come to understand healing and peace. I will understand that healing and peace come from aligning with perfect love and the importance of taking full responsibility for my thoughts and actions. Just read that again, John.
I recognize that fear arises from my confusion between my bodily and true identities. By allowing my true self to guide my thoughts towards love and acknowledging my mind's creative power, I would understand that healing and peace come from aligning with perfect love and the importance of taking full responsibility for my thoughts and actions.
Yeah. A good message.
Yeah.
Helping us to overcome fear. It was quite practical and helpful, I thought. So I'm glad we did that. Thank you, John, for raising that. Otherwise, I would have done cause and effect, but I'll leave you to read that.
Okay.
And I'll send it out just now on the group, both this one and today's one, because we're in number 7, which is cause and effect.
So we're going to read cause and effect ourselves and then do 8 tomorrow. That's the meaning of the last judgment.
Yeah, I'll send it out.
Okay.
It's available on your email as well.
Yep, that's good.
If you've got any questions, we can discuss it tomorrow. Okay, so I'll see you. Let's do it tomorrow afternoon session at 1 o'clock.
Okay,
works?
sounds good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Yep.
that's a good lesson today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
really good. Thanks,
Yeah.
Elaine.
Very good. Yep.
Thanks,
Okay.
John. Thanks, Elaine.
Okay.
Bye, John.
Bye for now.
Namaste.
Namaste. Bye, Elaine. All right, so that's a wrap for today. Thank you to Elaine, John, and Lynn for joining. Great session. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked what you saw and you'd like to receive more of this, then subscribe to the channel. You can also join us for our next masterclass. Go to vaolg.com to register for that. And you can also sign up to receive some of the material I shared up front on Telegram from lifebuild.com. The links are all below. So take the next step to overcome your fear and get in alignment with your true self. Namaste, which means my fearless true self, and me acknowledges and honors that same fearless self in you. Peace.